Hello, I'm Zac Hynus, and I am going to take you on a journey to a town that has been invaded by the same creatures that made it famous over 50 years ago. Now, I take you to the land of the living dead. Welcome to Evans City, a bustling small town here on the very outskirts of Pittsburgh. Now, this town has a very rich history dating all the way back to the 1800s, but their richest history is the black gold found underneath them.
Evans City, aka the City of Black Gold, looks just like any other small town in western PA. Located in the southwest corner of Butler County, Evans City has a rich history, being settled in 1830 and incorporated in 1882. One thing that was unique was the train station in Evans City, that was even featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not, for it was the only train station located over a body of water, until it was torn down in the early 2000s. Evans City stayed a quiet town until 1914, with a big discovery of oil, and a lot of it. To understand the town's history better, I met with Evans City Mayor Ding Zinkhann, who is also on the board of the Evans City Historical Society.
Yes, Zach, this is a duplicate of what it looked like back in, as a model of our old derricks back then.
So, these would have been absolutely everywhere in this town.
Yes, all over. We have pictures throughout over in that board there. You can see all the old derricks all through town.
With the oil boom, people flocked to the town, and money was plentiful. But the sudden mass oil drilling drained the ground at an existential rate. And in 1916, the boom was over, and the people left Evans City.
This is more of a bedroom type town, and we have being so close to Cranberry, most of the commerce moved to Cranberry, and also we had a few manufacturing places here like Mine Safety Appliance about 2 miles out the road. So a lot of our local residents at the time worked at the Mine Safety here 2 miles away.
But is there any oil left from the boom?
Well, no, not any remnants of the oil right here in town, but on the suburbs or outskirts, we do with the new oil companies and so forth, are still piping some oil out of the ground here. But as far as the activity right in the borough, there is no producing oil wells left anymore.
Now, if you're wondering why I'm talking about a town who lost its claim to fame almost 100 years ago, well, this is why.
Our adventure in fear. An experience in shock, more shattering than your strangest nightmare. Night of the Living Dead.
In 1967, the cast and crew of Night of the Living Dead descended onto Evans City. A relatively new production company named Image 10. 10 men with various amounts of experience came together in Pittsburgh, PA, with a budget of a little more than $100,000 to create an historic film with a lasting impact. Film reviewer Drew Moniot talked about how zombies returned after their original debut in 1932's White Zombie.
When you talk about genres, it's funny how they kind of go in and out of fashion. I mean, over the years, westerns have been very popular and then went through phases when they weren't popular. The same thing for musicals, science fiction. So I just think that, after White Zombie, there was a long period where people just weren't interested in this kind of horror film. And And I think it was George Romero who just, stumbled upon the right moment, the right time, the right movie, but made what was the game-changing film, that redefined the zombie genre and the zombie horror film.
The term zombie was even changed with these movies. The original meaning related to voodoo and mindless slaves. This version is on full display with White Zombie. However, George Romero, director of Night of the Living Dead, altered that to the more recognized modern version of the mindless dead who only want to eat your flesh. These zombies have been used in numerous projects with varying popularity, such as World War Z and The Walking Dead. Russ Streiner, producer of Night of the Living Dead, never could have expected this much fandom over his film.
Well, it's interesting when you do something like make a movie, you're kind of making a snapshot of history, and that snapshot of history can then be compared to other times and other snapshots in history. In the case of Night of the Living Dead, the snapshot that we took in Evans City has become pretty popular. It has become a classic in the horror genre, and it's been rewarding to us to see how people have, over decades, have continued to receive our work.
His brother, Gary Streiner, was the sound engineer, and his reaction is
humbling. In a word, it's just because, that was never the reason that we went out to do it. I mean, we never in a million years had any idea that it was going to turn into what it turned into. And we did it because, for exactly the same reasons. We did it because we wanted to do it, and because we thought we were pretty good at what we did for the time and for the situation where we were in. So, yeah, it was pure, absolute, unadulterated dedication to doing something, and that's it. You never know when the Wheel of Fortune is going to stop on your name, or your film, or your anything, and it did. And still today, it's kind of, it's like, who am I? I didn't do anything special. I just did what I thought I was meant to do.
But the big question still remains. What even brought zombies to Evans City? What was so unique about this town?
What brought the production of Night of the Living Dead to Evans City is we were able to make a very, very good deal for us and the property owner for some rural farm property in Evans City. Once we made the arrangement for the farmhouse, we were then also able to make arrangements for the cemetery location, and we got great cooperation from the folks in Evans City.
Evans City local Gene Caruso reflects on how the town never really got into the film.
It was a very quiet, laid-back country town, and there really wasn't an interest in Night of the Living Dead or really any of the Romero films that were filmed here. I don't think that they had been around long enough to be appreciated by fans or by local people like they are today. So you would come to Evans City and you would hear it was filmed here. And there would be a little bit of like an interest in it, but nobody really cared about it as much as they do now.
Though tourists did come to this town to come to the filming locations of Night of the Living Dead, it didn't really draw that big of a crowd, and attention to the town really died down after time. However, that all changed with the beginning of the Living Dead weekend.
Kevin Kriess became the director of the Living Dead Weekend in 2014. He also owns the Living Dead Museum in Evans City.
Originally, there was something called the Living Dead Festival that Gary Streiner, one of the filmmakers of Night of the Living Dead, started. And then, taking off where he left off, we added more community elements and formed Living Dead Weekend. So now here we are. This is Living Dead Weekend. It's all over Evans City. We got stuff in town, stuff in the park. We have community fundraisers such as this Scarecrow Field. This is a fundraiser for Echo Park. We have actors from the movies. We have events and parties and film location tours where you can see where the movies were made, because also The Crazies was filmed in Evans City.
I think it's an escape for a lot of people. I think that any science fiction, fantasy or horror is an escape for a lot of people. People come to like these things for a lot of different reasons. Some people come to escape, some people just like being scared. I think some people feel a sort of comfort in being with other people that like the same things that they do. I don't think it's an escapism thing for me. I think that Night of the Living Dead is a great movie to lay down and go to sleep to at night.
Everett Foster has lived in Evans City his whole life and is now a vendor at the Living Dead Weekend, an event that he has been a fan of since 2008.
Well, in 08, I was 18, and back then I was in high school, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, like just this huge event that could bring in millions of people, or not millions, but hundreds of people from outside towns for the town of Evans City was awesome. I thought to myself, wow, if they could really bring in a lot of money, what could this town do with all that?
There's a lot of foot traffic coming into these towns, and I think that's great for the towns financially and certainly popularity-wise. It attracts a lot of people for tourism.
Even with the influx of tourism, many in Evans City still don't want to be associated with Night of the Living Dead or zombies in general.
There was a little bit being an elderly town in some of the religious towns with our 5 churches in town. Some of them, with today's people compared to the elderly people, they didn't understand too much about it.
I think they're somewhat in shock. I think some resent it. I think that there's a certain mentality that thinks it's voodoo. And that these crazies are going to come into our town and rape and pillage, and each year we prove them wrong. But there's stereotypical visions of horror people, or like weird and dark, and we're all black, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, they're all human beings. They're all good people,
It took a very, very long time for the town to accept the festival and the film's legacy, and it all started in 2011 with this building.
I came to the realization that there's a chapel in the cemetery where when Johnny and Barbara first come into the cemetery and they stop and they get out, the chapel was in the background. And I caught wind of the fact that it was going to be torn down. And I heard rumors of it for a while, and then all of a sudden the rumors were not rumors anymore, and if somebody had a backhoe on their trailer with a down day, the chapel was going to be gone. So that was my call to action, and basically put together a fundraiser to raise the money to fix it. And we did that. And it's just something to be proud of. It's something, it feels good to be able to do something with your time that it's going to have a lasting effect, It's always been, I've always maintained the fact that, Night of the Living Dead fans are really, they're really lucky, because they still do have, even George Romero, they still have a lot of the original cast and makers of the film right here and alive, and they can actually talk to them. I said, but we're all getting older, and sometimes somehow that's going to change, and and now there will be this chapel that people can come and see and be around.
After the success of the Save the Chapel campaign, many residents are turning to zombies once again as they are trying to save their community pool at Echo Park.
Echo Park is one of the many community pools in danger in the U.S. However, this pool's unlikely ally will fight tooth and nail to save it. John Rogers is leading the effort to raise funds with the help of the Living Dead Weekend.
We've established a foundation. I think things are looking up, and events like this to help raise money for the park are tremendous. I know that we're having a silent auction on Night of the Living Dead items that are here, and if people come here today, they can make their own goal, which is pretty unique, and it's a $5 donation towards the park.
And with the fundraisers at the Living Dead weekend helping to reach their goal, what are the plans for the pool?
We have been getting grants through the state. Our goal is $60,000 to make numerous improvements for the park, and that's one thing. You know, our goal is to get a complete renovation of the park and pool.
So they have another full year to raise it, and you know, we're down to like, what, $50,000, something like that, still to be raised. Well, that's what we raised in a year for the chapel. But I'm more proud about the way the community has come out to support this, and the volunteers and the people who just really want it. They want this pool here, and they'll get it. And that's all it is, it's determination, basically, in anything.
My only regret is that people believe that this is my job. It's not, and I really wish it was, because I think I would have been able to do this already. It's a volunteer thing, and a lot of volunteers make it happen. The one thing that I will never leave here, because of the fact I've watched kids grow up who were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and they do different projects inside the park, such as a sandbox. Their hearts are into this, and that's one thing. I look at their faces when I come here every summer, and I see the work they've done and the volunteer work they've done. I would never turn my back on them, and that's kind of humbling to me.
Now, there are zombie festivals all over the country, but this one in particular has its unique flavor, because it doesn't feel like a festival. It feels more like a family reunion.
It's part of the culture. What we realized started happening is we knew that there was this common ground. You know, we knew that there was, these fans had, just like you, there's this, I don't know, compassion and interest, you know, and all of a sudden, when they all start to come together, they become like, they instantly bond, they become instant friends. And so it got to the point after a couple of events, it's just like, it's like family, you know? You see somebody and you run over and you hug them and you kiss them like they were a brother or sister, you know?
We've all become a big family with one another, members of the cast of the different movies and stuff. These events for us are more about a family reunion than I think even being fans of the Romero films, at least they are for me. I think that about the time that the chapel did get itself fixed, I think that was the point that the legitimacy of the fandom and of the movement became something that people recognized, something that they cared about.
Well, whether the town enjoys it or not, zombies are here to stay for Evans City, and the town will flourish from the commerce coming in. I'm Zac Hynus, but who's calling me? Hello?
They're coming to get you, Zac.
What? No!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.